Amazing Christmas Tales. This book has 25 stories, and it's called Christmas Tales. It's got a beautiful illustration with someone wearing a king's crown. They've got a spoon here and they're ready to eat a Christmas cake. There is also a Christmas jug here with a Christmas tree on it. A cute little cat. And someone eating something. I don't know what it is. But they're all at the Christmas table. So, let's begin. Here we've got the contents. One Christmas Eve, all the way to Santa Claus, Annabelle's little thimble, a coat for the snowman, the extraordinary Christmas tree. On his way home, the golden key, no present for Benny, first walk in December, the Christmas tree fairy, a Christmas legend, the Christmas bicycle, a grand visitor, the little carol singer, the man who wasn't Father Christmas, a Christmas wish. He belonged to the family, a whole inner stocking, Christmas in the toy shop. They didn't believe in Santa Claus, Bobo's magic stocking, the pantomime wolf, Little Mrs. Milligan, second walk in December, the magic snowbird, and of course, acknowledgements. So we are going to start with the first story. One Christmas Eve. One Christmas Eve. One Christmas Eve, something most extraordinary happened to Father Christmas. Two of his reindeer were new ones and didn't know one chimney from another, and suddenly his sleigh drew up beside a tall factory chimney. Well, of course, it is no good going down a factory chimney because there are never any children below with stockings to be filled. But Father Christmas was so used to his reindeer stopping at all the right chimneys that he didn't even look to see if this was a proper one. Out we get, he said to himself, heaving at his enormous sack. Stand still, reindeer, till I come back. My, what a pitch dark night. He groped about for the chimney and found the rim. He lowered himself into it, and then, just as he usually did, he let himself go. He thought he would slip down the chimney a little way and then come to the fireplace. Instead, he fell down and down and down at a most alarming speed. The chimney was very tall indeed, very dark inside, and rather smelly. Father Christmas lost his red hat, trimmed with white fur. His coat caught on a jutting nail and was ripped off his back. It broke his fall, though, and when he at last landed at the bottom of the big factory chimney, he only got a jolt and bump that made him gasp and sit down suddenly. He felt himself all over. I'm not hurt. I've still got my sack, but I've lost my hat and my coat. Oh dear, I must look a dreadful sight without a coat and all dirty and sooty. How do I get out of here? That must have been a factory chimney. He tried all the doors and they were locked, so he opened a window and climbed out, pulling his sack behind him. And then suddenly a loud voice hailed at him, and a bright lantern flashed its there? What are you doing in that factory? And what have you got in that sack? It was a policeman. Father Christmas wasn't afraid of them because he had never in his life done anything wrong and he liked them. But he really felt very awkward indeed at that moment, climbing out of a factory window. It's alright, policeman, he said. Well, I'm Father Christmas, to tell you the truth. That's a fine tale, said the policeman in a disbelieving voice. Can you think of a better one than that? Father Christmas, indeed. You look more like a chimney sweep. Open up that bag. I shall want you to give me the contents and come along to the police station with me. Father Christmas stared at him in horror. Give up my precious sack of toys so that the children couldn't have any. Spend the night in prison. No, he couldn't possibly do that. He tried again. My good man, I'm telling the truth. I've had an accident and come down the wrong chimney, and I really am Father Christmas. Can you see my reindeer up there? The policeman couldn't. He didn't even bother to look. He made a grab at Father Christmas and his sack. Father Christmas ran for his life, and the policeman thundered behind him. Father Christmas came to a little gate, darted through it, and hid behind a bush. The policeman missed the gate and went on, but Father Christmas knew he would soon be back. Whatever was he to do? He went to the little house nearby and peeped through the window. He saw two children in bed with a little nightlight shining beside them. He tapped at the window softly. The children awoke. They sat up. Father Christmas tapped the pane again and called softly, "It's me, Father Christmas. Let me in." The boy and the girl looked at one another in delight. Father Christmas, what a wonderful thing. You couldn't get down our chimney. I told you it was too small, said the boy and slid out of bed. I let him in. He opened the window wide and Father Christmas climbed in, shutting the window behind him. He was very glad to be out of the way of that angry policeman. But the children didn't like the look of him at all. Where was his red hat and red coat? Why was he so dirty? They looked at him scared. "Shh, don't be frightened," said Father Christmas. "I came down the wrong chimney and lost my coat and hat and got dirty. Look, I'll open my sack." "Then you'll know I really am Father Christmas. All my toys are here." So they were. The sack was crammed absolutely full of toys of all kinds. The children gazed at them in the greatest delight. "Poor Father Christmas," said the girl, patting his arm. "I'm sorry you came down the wrong chimney. Would you like a wash?" The heavy tread of the policeman was heard outside. "That's a policeman who thinks I'm a burglar," said poor Father Christmas. "Could you hide me, do you think? Just till he goes." "Get into that cupboard," said the boy. "There is plenty of room for you. Quick, the policeman is knocking at the front door." So he was. Soon the children's parents were opening it in surprise and listening to the policeman. "The burglar may be hiding somewhere in your house," he said. "His footsteps go through your gateway. May I search, please?" So he hunted all through the house, but he didn't look in the cupboard in the children's room because the children's mother was quite sure no one could get in there without being seen. The children would see a burglar if they got into the room and hid in the cupboard, she said. They would call out in fright. The policeman gave up the hunt and went away. The children's parents went back to bed, and at last the cupboard door opened and Father Christmas looked out at the children, smiling. "Thank you," he said. "I'll wash now. I only wish I could borrow a red hat and coat. I don't feel right without them." "Daddy's got one," said the little girl. "He went to a Christmas party, a fancy first one and he dressed up as Father Christmas. Brought his coat and hat. They're just right, red, trimmed with white fur. Well, they fitted Father Christmas beautifully and soon washed and clean and dressed up in proper Christmassy clothes again. He was ready to go. Thank you very, very much for all your help, he said to the two children. I don't know what I would have done without you. I'll go now. Where are your reindeer? Asked the girl. Somewhere up in the sky, wondering why you don't climb out of that factory chimney, said Father Christmas. I will send them down. He gave a peculiar whistle, and almost at once there came the sound of jiggling bells, and down from the sky came the reindeer, drawing the sleigh behind them. Father Christmas got in and set his big sack carefully down beside him. He spoke sternly to his reindeer. You two new ones aren't thinking what you're doing. Listen to what the older ones say and don't stop at the wrong chimneys. He waved to the children. Goodbye. I shall have to hurry now or I'll never get finished before dawn. Thank you again for your help. I'll send this clothes back as soon as I can. Off you went into the air, the reindeer galloping swiftly, their bells jiggling as they went. The sound grew fainter and fainter, and then the children could hear it no longer. They went back to bed, excited. To think we were able to help old Father Christmas like that, said the boy. What will the other children say when we tell them? We'd better not say a word, said the girl. They just wouldn't believe us. I say, look, he's forgotten to fill our stockings. The two stared at their stockings, which they had hung at the ends of their beds. They hung limp and empty, and not a single toy. It was very, very disappointing. Well, I expect his adventure made him forget our stockings, said the boy. At last, never mind. We've shared in his adventure. Let's go to sleep. But, what surprise they're going to get in the morning when they go to that cupboard and Father Christmas hid in. It's full of toys. A stocking full wasn't enough for those two kind children. Father Christmas wanted to leave them more than that. And when they opened that cupboard out, will come a train and a doll and a ship and a top and a book with a musical box and a bear and almost everything you can think of. Wouldn't they love to be there when they open the door? Good old Father Christmas. I hope he always finds kind children to help him when he's in trouble. Now, let's read the second story, All the Way to Santa Claus. All the Way to Santa Claus. There was a tremendous noise in the castle of Santa Claus. The workers there were getting thousands of toys ready for Christmas. Tops were humming, toy dogs were quacking, rocking horses were rocking, trains were rattling around and round rails, and teddy bears were practicing their roles. Everywhere you went, you could see and hear the toys being made ready by the workers of Santa Claus. Now, one of the magical workers was a brownie called Slick. He was the one that taught the jack in the boxes to jump straight out of their boxes in their springs and make people jump. Nobody liked him very much. He didn't always tell the truth and he was rather sly. I don't trust him, said one brownie to another, and they worked hard with all the toys. Santa Claus owed to get rid of him, but Slick was such a very good worker that Santa Claus didn't want to send him away. This was a pity because Slick had a very daring plan in his mind. He meant to steal the sack of toys that Santa Claus was going to take out with him on Christmas night. This sack was a very magic one. Slake had found out all about this. He had asked Mr. Haitian, who always made each year's sack, how Santa Claus got the toys there. "It's easy," said Mr. Haitian, busy sewing at the big sack. He sewed a big magic into every stitch. On Christmas night, a whistle is blown and all of the toys stand up. Then they march out of their different toy rooms in a long line and walk straight into the sack. It doesn't matter how many there are, they can all go in. Then Santa Claus ties up the neck of the sack and goes off with it in his sledge. That was all that Slake wanted to know. Now he knew what to do. "I'll pretend that there is to be a practice march into the sack this year," he said to himself, "and I'll be the one to hold the sack open for the toys to march in. Then I'll tie up the sack, drag it to my car, and drive off with it into the land of boys and girls. I'll sell the toys to all the toy shops and make a lot of money. How easy." So, sometime before Christmas, Slake pretended to all the toys that there was to be a practice march into the sack. "When I blow my whistle, you must all come," he said. He blew his whistle. At once, the bears got up and marched crawling into the sack. The ducks waddled and quacked. The trains rushed in at the top speed, and so did all the toy cars. The dolls walked in, and the balls rolled along. The tops spun themselves there, and even the bricks somehow hopped, skipped, and jumped along. As for the toy soldiers, they marched smartly behind their captain, who, with his sword drawn, saw them all carefully into the big sack. It really was a sight to see. "It's only practice march," whispered the dolls to one another. "He shan't be in this smelly sack. We shan't be in this smelly sack very long." But to their great dismay, Slake tightly tied up the neck of the sack and began to drag it along the floor to the back door where he had his car waiting. Nobody heard the cries of the toys. It really was very easy for Slake to steal them all. In 2 minutes, the big castle was quite silent, for not a toy was left. No crawling, no clattering, no rocking, no quacking. The toys were all crowded together in the magic sack, hundreds and hundreds of them being driven off to be sold in our land. The captain of the soldiers soon guessed that something was wrong. He yelled out to Slake, "Hi, what are you doing with us? Where are you taking us? Let us out. I shall complain to Santa Claus." Slake laughed loudly. "You'll never see him again. You're going to toy shops for people to buy. You won't be put into children's stockings." The toys were scared and upset. They all began to talk, and at once at the tops hum. And the tops hummed so loudly that it was difficult to hear what was being said. "Silence," said the captain of the toy soldiers. It's in a loud voice. "I have a plan. Please listen, all of you." The toys became quiet. The captain spoke in a low voice. "I'm not going to be sold in a toy shop. I mean to go back to Santa Claus. I have a sword, toys, and I am going to cut a hole in this sack. I and my soldiers will escape through this, and any of you that like to follow us can do so. We will lead you back to Santa Claus." He then cut a large hole at the back of the sack. He marched out with his soldiers, and they found themselves at the back of the car. It was not going very fast because there was snow on the ground, and Slake was driving slowly in case he skidded. One by one, the soldiers dropped to the snowy ground, and all the toys followed them. Soon the sack was quite empty, but Slake didn't know that. Oh no, he drove on and on, thinking that he still had hundreds of toys behind him. It was about 6 o'clock in the evening. They were in a big town, and they could see horses horses all around them. What should they do next? There is a policeman. Shall we ask him the way back to Santa Claus? Whispered a doll. So they made their way in a long line over the snow to the big policeman. But when he saw his strange collection of tiny things moving towards him, he was afraid. He couldn't see that they were only toys. He thought they must be rats, and he ran off to the police station. Rat poison, he said to himself. I must get somewhere. Must get some somewhere. What a plague of rats we've got in this town, to be sure. He's run away, said the captain crossly. Look, here's somebody else. 2 people. Oh, they're children. Sure enough, 2 children were coming along in the snowy night. The soldiers followed their captain at the lamppost, and there the 2 children saw them, a long line of little shining toys. Look, Betty, toy soldiers, and oh my goodness, these are dolls too, hundreds of them. Are we dreaming? We must be, Tom, said Betty, but it's a lovely dream. Listen, this little soldier is speaking to us. Do you know the way to Santa Claus? The captain was asking in a little high voice. Somebody stole us away from his castle tonight, and we want to go back. Well, of course, Betty and Tom made the same answer that you would have made. We don't know. We know he lives in a castle somewhere in a snowy land where reindeer live, but we couldn't possibly tell you the way. Good gracious, but we really must get back, said a big doll in alarm. It's almost Christmas time, and we're the toys that Santa Claus puts into children's stockings. We're not shop toys. A reindeer could tell us the way, said the captain. All reindeer know the way to the land of Santa Claus. You don't happen to have a pet reindeer we could ask, do you? Oh no, said Betty with a laugh. But there are reindeer in the London Zoo. That's not very far away from here. This is London, you know. Is it really? Said the captain, who had never in his life heard of London. Could you possibly take us to the zoo and let us talk to the reindeer? It's shut now, said Tom, but we could take you to the gates, and as you're so small you could easily slip through the railings. We'll take you to the gates that are nearest to the reindeer house. I don't know how to thank you, said the captain. I shall certainly tell Santa Claus all about you when we get back, and I will ask him to bring you a special lot of toys this Christmas to reward you for your help. What are your names? Asked the big doll as they all walked down the street through the snow. I'm Don, and my sister is Betty, said Tom. I said this is a funny thing to happen. I do wonder if I'm dreaming it. After some time they came to the gates of the big London Zoo. It was quite easy for the toys to slip through the railings. They called goodbye and went into the dark grounds of the zoo. They heard a wolf howling, and they heard owls hooting, and then they smelled the familiar smell of reindeer. The captain sniffed hard. I smell them, he said. Their house must be somewhere near here. Come along. So, through the zoo, along the snowy paths, went a long, long line of toys, all behaving very well, except the sailor doll, who began to throw snowballs at the soldiers and even threw one at a surprised bear who had wandered out into his open-air enclosure to see what the line of tiny creatures could be. They came to the reindeer house at last, and they all slipped through the railings. The reindeer were asleep. There were 2 of them, and the captain poked them with the end of his sword. They woke up with Jump. Who's that? Said one reindeer. Reindeer, do you know Santa Claus? Asked the captain. Of course, said the reindeer. I used to live not far from his castle. I always thought I'd be chosen to draw his sledge, but I never was. I even practiced galloping through the sky, you know, like his sledge reindeer do, but I wasn't fast enough. Reindeer, somebody stole all of us Christmas toys from the castle of Santa Claus, said the captain honestly. But we escaped, and now we want to get back. Could you possibly tell us the way? Well, you want to go the Skyway. It's much shorter than any other way, said the reindeer. See that big star there? Well, you go straight for that, but at midnight you steer by those 3 stars to the right. And the listening toys groaned. We can't fly though through the sky, said the big doll. Oh, reindeer, have you forgotten how to gallop through the air? Could you possibly take us on your back, do you think? Think how grateful Santa Claus would be to you. The reindeer began to get excited. The second one did too. They tried to remember the spell that had to be used for galloping in the sky over the big London Zoo while the toys watched from below in delight. One of the keepers saw the reindeer in the sky, but he didn't believe it. There is something wrong. With my eyes, he said, reindeer in the sky indeed. Why, I'll be delivering Santa Claus next. So he didn't do anything about them at all, which was a very good thing. It wasn't long before the toys were all climbing onto the reindeer's back. They were not only on their backs, but on their necks and noses and tails and underneath. They were so very many toys, you see. They all managed to get on at last, and then off they went. It was most exciting to gallop through the sky. There was no sound of hooves, of course. The toys had to cling on tightly because the reindeer went so fast. At last they arrived at the castle of Santa Claus, and the reindeer stamped up the steps, puffing and blowing and feeling very important. And down the steps came Santa Claus and all of his workers in the great surprise of delight. Why did you run away, toys? Where have you been? Cried Santa Claus. Who are these fine reindeer? The captain of the toys explained, and there was such an excited humming and quacking and squeaking, growling all around that Santa Claus could hardly hear. That wicked slate, he cried. I have him punished, and I'll reward both Betty and Tom, and these 2 reindeer as well. Reindeer, that reward would you like? Oh, please, Santa Claus, may we help you draw your sledge on Christmas Eve? Begged the reindeer. We could gallop here from the zoo. Right, said Santa Claus. Come along on Christmas Eve, and at about 8 o'clock, so that I can get you ready. And now, what about these children, Betty and Tom? I'd better take them an extra fine lot of presents, I think. What is their address, Captain? Well, will you believe it? Nobody knew. I forgot to ask for it, said the captain, and I don't know their surnames either. Oh dear, how will you reward Betty and Tom, Santa Claus? I have to look up all the Bettys and Toms in my Christmas book, said Santa Claus, and I have all of them some extra fine toys. That's the only thing I can do. Now come along to bed, each of you. You must be tired out. Well, that is the story of how all Christmas toys were stolen and how they got back safely to Santa Claus. I hope your name happens to be Betty and Tom. If it is you, you'll be lucky this year. Let's read the next one. Annabelle's Little Thimble. Annabelle's Little Thimble. Again, Annabelle's Little Thimble. Annabelle had a nice little work basket that Granny had given her. You should have seen it. There were needles of all sizes, a bright pair of scissors, black, white, gray, green, and blue cottons, and a pin cushion. But best and brightest of all was Annabelle's little silver thimble. Mommy had given it to her on her birthday. It was made of real silver, so it fitted Annabelle's middle finger beautifully, and she was very proud of it. She took great care to keep her work basket shut. And when Rascal, the jackdaw, was bound, he was Dame Jackdaw that Daddy had picked up from the ground. When he was a tiny bird fallen from the nest. Daddy had fed him and tamed him, and now he hopped and flew around the house and loved to talk to anyone he met. But he was so fond of bright things that everyone was careful not to leave any spoons, brooches, necklaces, or silver pencils around. If they did, Rascal the jackdaw would take them and hide them away in one of his cubby holes in the garden. Once Daddy had found a whole collection of things tucked away in a corner of the potting shed: a pair of scissors, 2 spoons from next door, some pieces of silver paper, and a little gilt pin. Rascal couldn't help it tagging them because he was so fond of shiny things. Daddy had often tapped him on the back for going off with things, but it didn't cure him, so everyone had to be very careful not to leave glaring things around. Annabelle had always been careful of her little thimble because she had seen Rascal looking at it 2 or 3 times when she put it on her finger, but there came a morning when she forgot. She was sewing a new bonnet on her doll when Mommy called her. "Quick, Annabelle, there's Auntie Sue." Annabelle loved Auntie Sue, so she hurriedly put down her work, stuck her thimble on top of it, and ran to meet her auntie. And as soon as she was safely out of the door, Rascal the jackdaw came in at the window. He spied the bright little thimble at once and bounced it off. He had wanted that for ever so long. Where would he put it? He went and sat on the kitchen windowsill, holding it in his beak. Cook was busy making Christmas pudding, and she didn't even look at him. Rascal watched her. Dear me, Cook had lots of bright things on the table beside her. Yes, she had 6 1-penny pieces, 4 3-pence pieces, a very small silver elephant, a tiny silver doll, a silver horse-hoe, and 1 big, bright, shining shilling. She was going to put them in the Christmas pudding for luck. It was always fun at Christmas time to see who got the treasures out of the pudding. Rascal watched the cook drop the shining things into the pudding. He thought Cook was hiding them. What a good place to hide them. He waited until Cook went to the cupboard to get something, and then he hopped to the table. He dropped Annabelle's silver thimble into the sticky mixture and then covered it neatly up with currants and chopped nuts in the dish. It was a splendid hiding place, but oh dear me, what to do when Annabelle ran to get the sewing again? Where was her dear little silver thimble? Gone, nowhere to be found at all. Everyone hunted all over the place, but it couldn't be found. Rascal must have taken it, said poor Annabelle in tears. So Daddy went to look in all the hidey holes he knew the jackdaw had, and they were empty. Not one of them had Annabelle's thimble in it. Annabelle was very unhappy. She did so like her thimble, and besides, Mommy had given it to her. It was dreadful to lose something Mommy had brought for her. No other thimble would be half so nice. Perhaps someone will give you another one at Christmas time, said Mommy, kissing her. It won't be as nice as the one you gave me, Mommy, said Annabelle. It helped me so nicely. I shan't do so well with any other thimble, I'm sure. Rubbish, said Mommy, smiling. She made up her mind to ask Annabelle's Auntie Sue to give her the little girl another thimble for Christmas. Mommy wanted to give Annabelle a new doll. Auntie Sue promised Mommy she would buy a lovely new thimble for Annabelle. But she forgot about it. Yes, she bought Annabelle a fairy tale book instead. So when Christmas came, there was no silver thimble for Annabelle. She was so disappointed, but she didn't say anything, of course. She loved all her presents very much, especially her new doll, but she would have liked a new thimble. Mommy and Daddy. But there was quite enough for everybody. Then Cook brought in the Christmas pudding with a bit of holly stack on top. How the children clapped their hands. What a splendid pudding it looked. Hope I get a 3 pence, cried Cousin Jane. I hope I get a shilling, cried Cousin Jimmy. And I hope I get the little silver elephant, cried Annabel. Everyone was served, and then, what a hunt there was through pieces of pudding to see if anyone had been lucky. A 3 pence for me, cried Daddy. Hooray! A shilling for me, cried Cousin Jimmy, fetching out a shilling from his piece of pudding. What have I got? Cried Annabel, filling her spoon scoop against something hard. She looked at the treasure she had, and then she cried out in astonishment, Mommy, Daddy, it was my own little silver thimble that I had lost ages ago. Oh, look, how did it come in the pudding? Mommy and Daddy were surprised. Annabel ran out to ask Cook if she knew it had been put in the pudding, but Cook didn't know anything about it at all. I'd expect it was a little trick Santa Claus played on you, she said. Go, go, go. Suddenly, a loud noise, and Rascal the jackdaw looked in at the window. Oh, Rascal, I wonder if you took my thimble and dropped it in the pudding, cried Annabel. Did you, Rascal? Go, 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 said the jackdaw, and Annabel didn't know whether he meant yes or no, but she didn't mind. She had got back her little silver thimble after all. It was the nicest Christmas